What's up, everyone? It is me, Charlie Brown, DJ Charlie Brown, Charlie Groebner, whatever you feel like calling me. And I am finally back with another episode of Sit Downs with Charlie Brown. As you can probably see behind me, new location. I've moved to the basement now. So this is probably where I'm going to be for the long haul. But that's sort of kind of why I haven't been uploading lately. That, and I've also kind of been lacking, trying to still lock some stuff down, and also I'm in the progress of moving back to college. So isn't it just grand? And there's also work. It's been a long haul, but regardless, I'm back right now, and I have my brother Joseph here. He does not have his camera on today for reasons. So yeah. Joe, you want to say
Hi.
hi?
Hi.
Yeah, there he is, and you can probably hear him in the other room. So that may be also something you guys can hear. But anyway, Joe, we have been in an interesting NHL free agency as there has been more money thrown around in this cycle of loan than like any other period than in history right now. So figured we just kind of go through the teams and you and I can discuss. So first on the first team I have up, Arizona, the Coyotes. Honestly, I really have nothing positive to say about them. Like they lost Michael Bunting, they traded uh, Darcy Kemper to Colorado, and mostly the only positive was they traded OEL and they got a bunch of picks.
Yeah, I mean the OEL trade was kind of good for them. They're kind of just like
They're
taking on a bunch of contracts.
they're in a rebuild mode pretty much. So that's all I can say about them. Oh boy, the next team, Chicago. God, where do we start with this team, man? And this isn't about like all the drama to come out of the front office lately. Like, I that's a whole nother thing I don't want to really get into just because it'd be a rant fest. But what is seriously? Has Stan Bowman gone mad with power? What are they doing? So I you go from a rebuild year and now you're suddenly fuck it, we're going all in, and I'll crap, I said a bad word. Okay, I'm putting that in the swear jar right now. Cool. But yeah, so what Chicago did, not only did they trade for Seth Jones and give up a lot for him, they signed him to a Draisaitl contract. 8 years and like here, I actually want to check this so I make sure I can get it right because it is disgustingly huge just how big this contract is. So, yeah, it is an 8 year deal with a $9.5 million cap hit. What the heck? And not only that, they actually somehow landed Marc Andre Fleury, which I'm like, what? Which is with Vegas, I don't know what the heck they're doing, which we'll get to in a minute. But I'm like, you got something on this, Joe? Because I got nothing. I feel like this is just what is Chicago doing?
Uh, I feel like they're just jumping into a rebuild real quick, or like thinking they're still competitive, and you know, just trading for everything.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I just thought like their system last year wasn't unsustainable because like they kind of lost form hard during the last stretch of the season. But maybe that was just due to Kevin Lankin and not being able to bail them out. But what do I know? I don't know nothing. But just it it's a I don't know what Chicago's doing. I feel like they may be a team that bottoms out this year, and it's not due to their players. It's just due to these transactions because that Jones contract is massive, and you better hope for peak Seth Jones, or else it's going to be pretty bad. But yeah,
Yeah,
next one is an interesting one. Colorado pretty much kind of play did pretty much they only made their big moves that were necessary. Like the only pieces I think they lost were Grubauer and Brandon Saad. And even with losing Grubauer, they replaced him with Darcy Kemper, who I thought was decent in Arizona. Maybe he can evolve in Colorado. But yeah, they got Landeskog back. Uh they got Gabriel Landeskog. I forget. They signed someone else. I forget at the top of my head. One of their bigger guys. I think was it um I forget who it was, but I know they just most the only other real they didn't really do a whole lot, which I don't really think they needed to. So yeah. Um, Dallas, I was look mostly they kind of were another team that was like interesting on what they did. They weren't as active on the trade market, but mostly I'm just pulling up. They got some good players. They signed Braden Holtby to be a I think this means Ben Bishop is on the hot seat for Dallas because it just means like you have Hudobin and you have Otterberg, and now you have Holtby. It's like I don't even think he might be healthy scratch just till his contract's up at this rate. So
Yeah, it's interesting how many goalies they have. So we'll see
yeah.
what happens with them.
Yeah, they did extend Miro Heiskanen, which I like. 8 years at an $8.45 million hat cap. I think it's a fair contract considering he's probably one of their best shutdown defensemen right now. Because they also did sign Ryan Suter, former Minnesota or formerly bought out Ryan Suter to a 4-year, $3.65 million cap hit, which it's not bad. I think he still keeps up production, but I don't really know. It's just I feel like this is probably his last contract.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. But yeah, other than that, Dallas didn't do a whole lot. Next up, our good old Minnesota Wild. Now, here's the thing. I think people say we didn't have a good free agency. I'd say yes, but it wasn't bad. Like re-signing Joel Eriksson, I felt was crucial. Like, and it's not at a bad contract, but a lot of the other ones like Goligoski, like I don't know. Like, I just feel like Garen's kind of just buying a lot of used parts right now.
Yeah, I think it's fine. I mean, when you buy them out, like we had a lot of big holes on defense,
Yeah,
but
which
we can't like fill them just right away.
yeah.
So
The
kind
other
of
move I
just
feel like we need to mention is the era of Zach Parise and Ryan Suter is officially over because they were bought out. Which honestly, like, should we even be shocked? Like, I figured Zach was going to be obvious just because like he was healthy, scratched a whole lot, like, and it just really seemed like it was going to be the end. And I just didn't expect both because I thought Suter we could probably just let him ride out or try and trade him. So
yeah.
yeah, it just stinks because we all thought they would help us go to a cup. Never happened. Also, with the Wild, I will say this. Here, hold on. Garrett, if you let Kirill go back to Russia, you will not have a job much longer. And that is fact. Okay. We need him back. All right.
All right.
I know, Joe. You probably are wondering what did he just say, but I feel like that's the thing. Like, I feel like they will get him back, but I feel like it's just come on. Like it's all like it's currently 2 months till like training camp starts, and it's like, oh, let's just sign him and get this over with.
Yeah, I hear you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, next one. Nashville didn't do a whole lot in terms of like, I mean, they mostly just kind of did some trades and like uh minuscule things. I feel like, however, it's sort of like it was probably a more hard off season because Pekka Rinne has finally decided to hang up his goalie mask and stick for retirement, which and honestly sucks, but I get why. He was on the end of the athletic coil. I just feel like it sucks because he never got a chance to win a cup. Like I feel like he's now essentially in the same boat with guys like Henrik Lundqvist, Cujo or Curtis Joseph, like those kind of guys, which just it sucks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They're going to rebuild now. So
yeah, they're kind of rebuilding because they did get David Riddick. Because I think Riddick's essentially this Riddick and Roman Yossi, or no, it's not Yossi. I forget who their other goalie is at the top of my head, but I feel like they're mostly stopgaps until Askarov comes over in like a year or two. So,
yep.
Mm-hmm. Next is the St. Louis Blues. Now, they did some all right things. I feel like the biggest thing I'm wondering is what they're doing with Tarasenko, just because it seems
Trade
like
him.
he wants out and they didn't trade him. Like I was expecting Seattle to pick him in the
I
expansion
think
draft.
he's going to be traded pretty
Yeah,
soon.
yeah. I mean,
They're preparing for it to be without him. So
yeah. I mean, they did bring back Brandon Saad, which okay, name recognition. So, and then yeah, that was really all they kind of did.
well, they
So,
traded for Pavel Buchnevich.
oh yeah, the Buchnevich trade. Yeah, I feel like that's kind of the thing. Like when they lost Alex Petrangelo, it was like maybe it's time to do a hot sort of like a hard reset, just to kind of refuel things because it really just seems like once he left for Vegas, the team just fell off.
Yep,
Mm-hmm.
definitely did. But I think they could be a bounce back team next year.
Oh yeah, definitely. So next up is Winnipeg. They also were a team that wasn't massively active. They mostly just signed a lot of their kind of RFAs. Like they did get Riley Nash, they did get Luke Johnson. And like they got some good they did get Paul Stastny and Adam Lowry. Like they got some good pieces. Like I think they had some good stuff because they still have like their pieces. Like they
Mm-hmm.
still got Hellebuck, they still got Blake Wheeler, they still got a lot of the team. Like remember, this was a team that beat Edmonton, like swept Edmonton, so they still have potential. How they can use it, still to be determined.
Yep, I'd
Mm-hmm.
agree with you on that. Although they swept Edmonton, but then got swept by Montreal, so
Yeah,
they're really kind of a double negative. But they're
yeah,
probably a team that'll be fine in the end.
mm-hmm. Yeah. So next team up, we're moving over the Pacific now. We have Anaheim. Mostly, they just kind of got a bunch. They mostly just kind of stood pat, didn't do a whole lot. They did get they did re-sign Alexander Volkov. They brought in Brent Ritchie. They did get Getzlav back, but that's really it. Like I think they're still kind of in the period of waiting to get their prospects ready. So
Yep, and they're going to be coming soon because they have a lot of people in the system. So
yeah, yeah, that's sort of the thing because they were a disappointment last year because they were abysmal on the power play and just every facet.
mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, next up is Calgary, a team who I thought should have blown things up is just merely ignoring it and just sticking to their own ways. So I don't know. No, they did lose Mark Giordano to the expansion draft. I'm pulling up like I have Trade Tracker on TSN pulled up to make sure I get what they're doing is right. Mostly they didn't do anything. They did get a couple free agents. Like the big one they have was Blake Coleman from Tampa. Tampa at a $4.9 million cap hit, which isn't bad, but I mean, he plays a very physical game, and he could regress. So
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
Calgary will probably take a step back.
Yeah, I definitely could see that just because like they should have blown it. They should have gotten rid of if because essentially like I thought like after they didn't make the playoffs, you get rid of Giordano, you get rid of your sorry, you bye Gaudreau, bye Monahan, bye Giordano because it just really would they weren't working anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Next up, oh boy, Edmonton, Jesus, God,
What?
why do you give Ken Holland so why do people still go to Ken Holland? This off season has been a disaster for the freaking Oilers, man.
How?
Okay, dude. Duncan Keith?
That is a great trade.
No, it's not. You know it. He has
Yes.
the only good thing they did was sign Nugent Hopkins back to a pretty much a very friendly deal. 8 years, close to 5 mil. That's actually not bad. You extended Mike Smith. Really? You seriously think Mike Smith's gonna be the answer still?
Okay. Duncan Keys. See, the problem with him was that in Chicago, he was playing top 2 minutes. Okay, and in Edmonton, he won't be playing top 2 minutes for sure. So in a lesser role, I think he can do good.
Yeah.
Mike Smith, that's because they don't have any other good options at goalie.
Yeah. You shouldn't. Hey, Ken Holland, maybe you shouldn't have traded back in the draft. You could have Jesper Wallstedt in your system. So,
I
yeah.
mean, yes, but that might have been like the only thing he did that I didn't like. But
yeah. Let's see here. Tyson Berry at a $4.5 million cap hit for 3 years.
Well, they lost Adam Larson, so they had to get him. He was the highest scoring defenseman last season.
Your answer to
I'm
this,
gonna look that up. Highest scoring defenseman.
dude, they signed Cody Ceci to 4 years at $3.25 million. What about that says it's good?
Highest scoring defense. I said Tyson Berry.
Yeah, but even still, so you lose Adam Larson to the expansion draft, and your solution is replacing him with Tyson Berry and Cody Ceci. Really?
Look, Tyson Berry led all defensemen with 48 points last season, beating out Adam Fox, Victor Hedman, Chris Letang, and John Carlson, and Cale Makar. And 3 of those finished for Norris.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So I can understand that. All right. Okay. So now I know you dang well you cannot defend this one. Zach Hyman at the same deal of Milan Lucic, dude. 7 years, $5.5 million.
But you see, here's the thing. I also want to look at.
You cannot defend that one, Joe.
Actually, wait. How? Here, look. Canadian Oscar. I just want to see, what was his scoring last year?
Yeah.
Okay. What was the contract?
It was 7 years at $5.5 million.
Okay, maybe a little overpaid, but I think Zach Hyman is totally fine.
Yeah, let's come back to her at the end of the year, and let's see how Edmonton does.
I mean, look, it's better than Milan Lucic.
I'll give you that. He's better than Lucic. Well, yeah. Other than that, Darnell Nurse at 8 years and $9.25 million. Good lord.
I'm just looking at all these stats here real quick. I think he's kind of a shutdown defenseman, though, isn't he?
Yeah. Well, for those listening, Joe's probably trying to defend this because he does have a Connor McDavid jersey in his closet. So, yeah.
I mean, he had a plus minus of 27. That's pretty good.
Yeah. All right. Well, okay.
6'4", like, I don't know. I think you are making out the Oilers to be a lot worse than it is. I think it's going to be fine.
Yeah. We'll see about that. But anyway, so it's next on the docket. We have the LA King, the Los Angeles Kings. Honestly, I thought they did it pretty well. Like, even though this was like their first technically rebuilding year, even though they've kind of done it for the past 2, I'd say they had a decent offseason. Like, I think mostly this year they kind of gauged where they are at and kind of went from there. I will say, I do like the fact that they did manage to get Philip Denault, who's been one of the best centers in hockey, who was essentially one of the best centers in hockey. And at a 6-year, $5.5 million contract, that's not a bad deal. So yep. I figured it's progress in their rebuild. So, yeah. Next up, we actually have the new kids on the block, the Seattle Kraken. So my reaction to their expansion draft was interesting because there were a couple picks they made here. I actually want to pull up what they did because I know like they didn't essentially no trades, which I found shocking because that's what Vegas did like left and right, but who knows? Yeah. A lot of the picks I think they did good. They did get Chris Driedger, who I think did an incredible job for the Panthers this year. Let's see. Jared McCann, he's a good pick. Yanni Gord, obviously. here's the thing. And with the Carolina Hurricanes, they chose Morgan Geekie. Personally, I would have gone Niederreiter. That's just me, though. I just feel like he's more valuable.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Columbus, they picked Gavin Bayreuther, who I'm like, really? Because there was just a couple of thumbs. Like, if you're asking me, like, instead of Gavin Bayreuther, I'd rather have Max Domi personally, but that's me. That's just me. Let's see here. The Philadelphia Flyers, Carson Tworinsky. I'm like, ugh. Yeah. But yeah, obviously I'd say they had a decent sort of draft. They did get Carson Soucy from Minnesota, who I thought was good, who I actually really liked, especially I know since you like him because he's a UMD kid or went to UMD. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
Hey, going back on defenseman real quickly, Darnell Nurse, his plus minus of 27 was tied for 7th last year. Okay. He tied with Patrice Bergeron and Anthony Duclair, and the only 6 guys ahead of him, Shea Theodore, Joel Edmondson, Devontae's, Mackenzie Weegar, Leon Draisaitl, and Mikko Rantanen.
Okay, keep going. If it helps you sleep at night, Joe. All right.
Beat out Ryan O'Reilly, Mark Stone, Alex Martinez.
Yeah. All right.
Brad Marchand.
Okay. So this next team up, I
Carson
think is
Soucy, Nathan McKinnon, Connor McDavid, Mitchell Marner.
Joe, we get the idea. All right. So this next team, I'm sure, is one we actually both can egg on for obvious reasons. Vancouver. Why was Jim Benning not fired this year? Seriously.
He's doing a good job.
No, he's not, Joe. Dude,
down here.
He traded for one of the most expensive contracts in history in NHL, in the NHL, in Oliver Ekman-Larsson. I'm like,
not that bad.
Here, let's look up good old Oliver Ekman-Larsson's contract.
I got it for you. Don't worry.
Yeah.
It's not that bad.
Dude, you haven't seen that contract, man.
$7.26 million. That's not terrible.
How long? Over how long? Yeah. By the way, that contract is still goes till 2027, and it's not. It's a no movement clause all year, for all the years.
Okay.
So yeah,
still a good pick.
But yeah, also they signed a lot of these other pieces. Like they got Brad Hunt, who, okay, they got Luke Schnee, they got Tucker Pullman at a 4-year, $2.5 million cap hit. God, Travis Hamonic at 2 years, $3 million. That's actually not horrible. Brandon Sutter at a year. Connor Garland. Actually, Connor Garland's a good pick. Good acquisition. I will give them that. But it's like, you do realize you're going to have to pay both Elias Peterson and Quinn Hughes and also isn't Brock Besser like a free agent in like next year?
Yeah.
So good job, Benning. You might have just played yourself.
We'll see what he does.
Yeah. Also, if Brock Besser does come available, Wild, you know what you must do. Bring him home. Okay. Now, this next one, Vegas. Are they literally just trying to speed run for being the most unlikable team in history? Because literally, like, what is wrong with them? Literally, they traded possibly like maybe one of the true franchise players they had in Marc-Andre Fleury for literally nothing. Which is like, what? Because like he's pretty much been the guy on that team this year for ever since they drafted him really in the expansion draft, which is like, and then they just throw him out the door. Like, I don't understand what Vegas is doing. So
yeah,
it just sucks because apparently Fleury found out via Twitter, which is like, God, what you really couldn't call him. It's like they really are trying to be unlikable. Like I already wasn't a big fan of them, but now they're starting to be really kind of be unlikable by the league.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Next up, the all right. So now we've gone through the West Division. Now we got the Eastern Conference, and now we're going to move to the Atlantic Division. So first up, we got Boston. They actually, I think, like the only real big piece they lost was like, I think, David Krejci. He went back to his home country to Europe, so that sucks. But it is what it is. They did do some good. They did sign some good pieces. They did get Taylor Hall back at a 4-year, $6 million deal. That's actually not bad. They got Mike Riley, Derek Forberth, Thomas Nozak, Eric Holla, Nick Foligno. Like they got some. They at least got some good pieces. The big thing is like goaltending because Tuukka Rask is going to be out. And do you think Linus Ullmark really can step up and be better, be the same as he was in Buffalo? So, yeah. Speaking of the Sabres, like they're next up. I'm like, they're doing the right thing, blowing it up. Because at the time of this, Reinhart, Ristolainen both got traded, and we still don't know what's going to happen with Jack Eichel. Like they still think he's worth like a premium when they haven't really. We don't really know what his status is. Like it's just like what the biggest headache for Buffalo. They did get the first overall pick and did draft Owen Powers, but how long until they ruin him? Because it seems like now it's like they have nothing and they're already back to tanking again.
Yeah.
So yeah. Next up is Detroit. I will say that I give Steve Yzerman credit for working his Jedi magic. He managed to pretty much fleece Carolina of a Calder finalist in Adam Nedeljkovic and essentially now have him on their roster. So good job, Stevie.
Yeah.
I'm
they
still
did
like
really good this offseason.
yeah,
I'm
they've had
excited
to be
what they do.
yeah, they've really
Especially
had
with some other prospects coming up.
yeah, they're sort of yeah, because I feel like these past few years he's been trying to get rid of Ken Holland's mistakes, essentially. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Next up we have Florida. They did some all right moves. They were one of the team that landed Sam Reinhart, which I thought was decent. So they did get him on a 3-year deal. They did re-sign him today on a 3-year deal or like 2 days ago. So
yeah,
really mostly what they did was just re-sign their RFAs. They re-signed Sam Bennett, they re-signed Lucas Carlson, Anthony Duclair. Like they didn't do a whole lot of big moves. They just mostly did like smaller moves, which can you blame them? They did sign, which I don't know why. They signed Jumbo Joe Thornton to a 1-year deal. It's like, really, dude? You got to keep playing?
He wants to win a cup.
And he thinks he's going to win a cup in Florida. Why don't you just go sign with Tampa Bay then? They're probably going to win another cup, and people are going to be upset about it.
I don't know, man.
Yeah. So next up, Montreal. I feel like the thing Mark Bergevin has sort of has the gambling mentality. He makes these questionable moves and somehow it works out for him. For example, he made all these moves and it led him and the Canadiens to the Cup final. So,
yeah, I don't know how they're not going to repeat the success they had this year.
I know, especially since Shea Weber's probably out for the year. They lost Corey Perry. I'm looking at who they're signing. Arturi Lenkinen's back. They got him. Peralta's back. Mike Hoffman. Man, they did sign Mike Hoffman, which isn't bad, but like he's not going to pretty much be stepping up. I guess the best thing is like you hope guys like Suzuki, Caulfield, and Kotkaniemi are able to continue developing, and you might be able to get back there with them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, Carey Price is in limbo, which another thing is like he was exposed during the expansion draft. I didn't think Seattle was going to take him because his contract's friggin' massive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But yeah. Anyway, next up is the Ottawa Senators. I feel like the only positive thing I have to say is that they got some interesting youth on the way right now. They didn't do a whole lot. They didn't do a whole lot. They did get Victor Mete, or they re-signed Victor Mete. Like, it wasn't really a whole. It was mostly just kind of like smaller signings and stuff like that. They didn't do anything big. Which can you blame them? They're kind of just wanting to see what they have out of their youth more.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Next up, the back-to-back Stanley Cup champion Tampa Bay Lightning. Honestly, they kind of just they were over the cap, so they were just mostly shedding talent and were able to do it.
Yep.
Yeah, they did sign Corey Perry to a short-term deal, which I can get. He finally wants to go win a cup and is joining the dark side. And then Braden Point got not only an 8-year contract at 9.5. It stings me as a Wild fan. It makes me just still it stings us as Wild fans and still pains me knowing that pick Chuck Fletcher traded ended up being Braden Point. Oh, good old Chuck Fletcher. Have fun ruining Philadelphia.
All right.
Yeah. Next up is the Maple Leafs. Honestly, I was shocked by what the Maple Leafs did. I thought after they lost that series, after they blew that 3-1 lead to Toronto or to Montreal, sorry. I thought they were going to blow up the core, but they didn't. All they did, they mostly just kind of went more for like depth signings, like Nick Ritchie, Andre Kasha. They got Peter Mrazek to be a backup. They got Michael Bunting. They re-signed Joseph Woll. They brought Wayne Simmons and Jason Spiza back. Like, really all you can say. You just need to get them to stop choking or losing in humiliating fashion. So,
Yep.
yeah. Next up, we have the Metro Division. First, first up, Carolina, who I have no idea what they're doing because you traded Nedeljkovic for a second and Jonathan Bernier, which, by the way, he was a UFA and you lost him. And now it's like, what are you doing? You also lost Dougie Hamilton. It's like, who did you really bring in that's going to help you get back to to winning in the postseason? So,
Yeah.
yeah,
I don't
I'm
know.
looking at
I think they'll still be good, but
yeah, they signed Antti Ranta to who I like. They did get Ian Cole. They did get the cancer of Tony D'Angelo, who ran himself out of New York for reasons I don't know. Yeah. So next up, we have the New Jersey Devils. When the New Jersey Devils had the best off season, you know there's an issue. They got Thomas Tatar for 2 years at 4.5, which is actually a pretty good contract. They got Dougie Hamilton for 7 years and 9 mil. That was a good acquisition. You need defense. They got Jonathan Bernier to be a backup. They had a pretty decent offseason. Colton White, they got Wedgwood back. So yeah, you really can't blame them for what they've done.
yep, they're going in the right direction. I'll say that.
Yeah, although you're still probably stuck with Subban for a little while longer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Next up is the Islanders. Mostly they haven't really done a whole lot yet. Mostly it was just they paid Adam Pelech 8 years for an 8-year 5.75 million. Word is they are looking into trying to get Zach Parise, which honestly makes sense because they were rumored to trade him back in like 2019, which I don't know why. It was probably something went wrong, but I could see before training camp starts, they're gonna sign him. So
yeah,
yeah, that's all you can really say about That next team up is the Rangers. I feel like with the Rangers this offseason, they've gone, the only thing they really have gone more for focusing on just trying to beat Tom Wilson, who really much broke their franchise. Because now they literally, like, all they signed this offseason to big deals was grit. Barclay Goodrow got a Brandon Tanev-esque contract, 6 years at like close to 3.6 million. Patrick Nemeth for 3 years at 2.5. Ryan Reeves, one of the more unlikable players in all of hockey, at a 1 year deal. And then they did sign. I just now saw this. They signed Igor Shizhorkin to a 4 year contract. So, I mean, that's kind of what they're going for. They're going for grit right now because I don't really think they need offense because they got Panarin, they have Lafreniere, they got Zibanejad, they got Capo. So,
Yep.
mm-hmm. Yeah. Next, the Philadelphia Flyers. What are they doing? They gave Shane Gostisberg away to the Arizona Coyotes for literally nothing, which I get you could use the cap space, but what are you doing bringing in Ristolainen? He's the ultimate idea of a player. He's not been the same as he was in years past. Like, I don't know what they're doing in terms of that. Other than that, like the only other big move they got was they re-signed Carter Hart to a 3 year deal. Really, they got Keith Yandle and Martin Jones, who was bought out by San Jose. And I should add, we didn't talk about San Jose because, let's be real, there's nothing really to talk about with them. They're locked into long-term cap hell. So,
yeah,
that's all you can really say. But yeah, next up is Pittsburgh. I didn't think they really did anything major. Mostly just signed their RFAs. Let's see here. Yeah, that's mostly it. Nothing major. When really I feel like next off season is going to be their major sort of sort of off season because I think it's like Malkin, Letang, and guys like Malkin, Letang, and Carter Hart are gonna or Jeff Carter are gonna be free agents. So I think it's gonna probably be next season that they become more active because you got here's the thing, like Crosby, Malkin, and Letang aren't exactly the same. They are still elite players. It's just like age is starting to catch up with them.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And next up,
their last chance.
What?
This could be their last year to possibly do it. So
yeah, that's true. And next up is Washington, which honestly I feel like most of what they did was just like their only real move was getting Ovi back, which I honestly kind of saw coming just because did you really see him leaving?
no.
Yeah, like they did. Mostly, it was just kind of like bringing in depth pieces and re-signing their RFAs. I'm just like shocked that they gave Ovi a 5 year, 9.5 million. Like, I didn't expect him to get that much just because he's probably going to retire in like 2 or 3 years. He and Crosby are probably retiring like around the same time. So, yeah. But yeah, that's sort of like all the teams. So before we adjourn, Joe, I actually wanted to get your predictions. Like, who do you think is probably going to be like? Who do you see as like the clear cut teams out of? So I'll ask you first. Who do you think right now are the top 4 teams in the Central Division? And I can list them off if you need to.
You don't need to. Here, give me a sec.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Okay, so top 4 teams.
Yeah, top 4 teams.
In the Central, I would probably go Colorado 1, Minnesota 2, as Winnipeg 3, St. Louis 4.
Yeah, that's kind of thing. The only thing is, I feel like maybe St. Louis. The two that I feel like for me, the number 4, it could be three different options. It's either Winnipeg, Dallas, because I feel like they could get healthy because Sagan's probably going to come back, and they could probably knock off some get a couple good wins to slip in there. And I actually maybe Chicago, because here's the thing we could also think, like, what if everything just clicks perfectly and they go on a deep cup run? So
Yeah, well, the thing about the Central, I think it's safe to say Colorado will probably finish first. If not, they will be in a
yeah,
playoff spot.
yeah, I see.
Arizona,
Mhm.
Arizona will finish last,
Yeah,
and then 2 to 7. I think it's really hard to say. Personally, if you ask me, I think it's actually 2 to 6 because I think Nashville is going to be 7, but
yeah.
2 to 6.
Nashville's probably taking a step backwards just due to Pecorino's retirement, but yeah.
Yeah.
Next up we have the Pacific Division. For me, top 4 is Vegas, Edmonton. I'm trying to think. Just because of division, Calgary, and I'd actually say make an argument for Los Angeles, because they at least it proved they are at least further. They're at least progressing in the rebuild. I'm not saying they're like a playoff team, but could be better.
Yeah, I have Vegas, Edmonton, although I have Vancouver and
Yeah.
then Los
Yeah,
Angeles.
that's fair. Like the thing is, like, I don't trust Vancouver because it kind of showed last year that like this team's probably fallen hard. So just kind of with a lot of the signings they've done. But
Although I will say that if the contract stuff still goes on with Pedersen and Hughes, then I might bump up. Like they might move down in my rankings, but
yeah, that's fair enough. Now, the next one on the docket is the Atlantic Division. Very top heavy. Obviously I feel like Tampa is going to be number 1 for me. Number 2, I have Boston. My 3, Toronto, and then my 4 is actually Florida, just cuz I feel like a lot, like, you got to think we've also got Buffalo, Detroit, Montreal, and Ottawa in this division. Like three out of those teams, 3 of the 4 are still probably rebuilding. So
yeah, I have it vastly different. I have it Toronto 1, Tampa 2, Florida 3, and then Ottawa squeaks in at 4, but Detroit is close.
yeah, that's fair. Like I think it for me it's good. Ottawa could slip back in if their prospects start start really catching fire and proving like they're legit, but I don't know. Next up is the Metropolitans. So for me, it's a little challenging, but the number 1 team I have right now is Washington. I know, a lot of the team, they're a lot older, but I feel like you still got Ovechkin. Like, you're still probably going to get to the postseason with the crew you have. How far you go, that's up to you. My 2 is actually New Jersey, because I think they've had a really solid offseason, and I think they could if they can really get their stuff together and really kind of piece everything kind of goes according to plan, they could slip into being a top team. My actually, like, here's the thing. So my top 4 is like Washington, New Jersey, the Islanders, and actually uh the Rangers, because I feel like they just hired Gerard Gallant and they got a lot of actual like grit on the defensemen on the team, which was an issue for them last year. So I feel like now that like they have actual defense and they actually can Alexis Lafreniere's had a year in, you can start probably like looking at maybe slipping in as like a 4 seed.
Well,
Mhm.
looks the only thing we agree on is that Pittsburgh and Columbus will miss the playoffs because I have it Carolina as number 1, New York
Mhm.
Islanders as number 2, Philadelphia number 3, and then the New York Rangers number 4.
Yeah. Well, I think my thing is with like Columbus, they're kind of starting over again because they traded They lost Seth Jones, which was like pretty much the only piece of credibility, legitimacy they had left. I will say they did get some decent pieces. They did get a nice return for Seth Jones. They got a lot of good trade value for the trades and guys they signed. So I think they won't fall off a cliff immensely, but I think they'll be better. They'll show some progress, but it's probably going to take a little bit. And with Pittsburgh, the thing is, it's like Malkin. I feel like that this year was probably their last chance to really go to a Stanley Cup, because like I just feel like Crosby, Malkin, and Letang are nearing like their late 30s, which is usually the point when like players show signs of regressions, and I just think it might be the end of an era sooner rather than later for Pittsburgh.
Yep.
So yeah. Regardless, let's hope to a good season of hockey, and we hopefully I'll see you all back here towards the end. I'll have Joe back here towards the end of the season. But Joe, thanks again for coming on, and I hope all of you have a great day. Peace out. Bye.